There's an island 100 miles off the coast of China, 180 miles long, 80 miles wide, and it controls the future of human civilization, not because of its military, not because of its oil, not even because of its strategic location, because of what happens inside a handful of buildings scattered across this tiny piece of land. Buildings that manufacture tomorrow. This is Taiwan, and in those sterile, ultra-secure facilities, a single company creates 92% of the world's most advanced computer chips. The chips that power your iPhone, your car, your government's defense systems, China's surveillance apparatus, America's AI weapons, everything. But here's what terrifies both superpowers. If Taiwan stops producing chips for just 30 days, the global economy doesn't slow down, it collapses, and both America and China know it. So they're preparing for war, not over ideology, not over territory, not over human rights, over semiconductors. But there's something even more dangerous brewing beneath the surface. Something that makes Taiwan's chip dominance both its greatest shield and its deadliest target. Because when the world's two superpowers both depend on the same 180 miles of contested territory, the question isn't if conflict will come, it's who strikes first. But before we reveal how a tiny island accidentally became the center of a global power struggle that could reshape civilization itself, hit that subscribe button, because this isn't just about Taiwan. This isn't just about semiconductors. This is about the most dangerous chess game ever played. And you need to understand every move. Taiwan wasn't supposed to become the center of the technological universe. It was an accident of history, a perfect storm of timing, talent, and desperation that created the most powerful economic weapon ever conceived, the Silicon Shield. In 1987, a Taiwanese engineer named Morris Chang made a decision that would reshape global power forever. He founded TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company. But Chang didn't just start another tech company, he invented an entirely new business model. Instead of designing chips, TSMC would manufacture everyone else's designs. Instead of competing with customers, they'd enable them. Apple could focus on innovation, NVIDIA could push performance boundaries, AMD could challenge Intel, and TSMC would make it all possible. By 2000, this strategy looked clever. By 2010, it looked brilliant. By 2024, it looked terrifying. Because TSMC didn't just dominate chip manufacturing, it monopolized the future. Today, every advanced processor, every AI chip, every smartphone brain, every autonomous vehicle controller comes from one place, Taiwan. But here's the part that keeps Pentagon strategists awake at night. TSMC's most advanced facilities can't be replicated, can't be moved, can't be replaced. The machinery costs $20 billion per factory. The expertise takes decades to develop. The supply chains span continents. And it's all sitting 100 miles from mainland China. But there's something even more unsettling about Taiwan's semiconductor dominance. Something that transforms this industrial success story into a geopolitical nightmare. Because Taiwan's chip monopoly isn't just about economics, it's about survival. And that changes everything. Here's the uncomfortable truth about modern civilization. We've built our entire technological foundation on a single point of failure, and that point of failure sits in one of the most contested territories on Earth. Consider this. If TSMC's factories stopped operating tomorrow, Apple couldn't build iPhones. NVIDIA couldn't manufacture AI processors. Tesla couldn't produce autonomous vehicles. The Pentagon couldn't build advanced weapon systems. Within weeks, global supply chains would seize. Within months, entire industries would collapse. The economic damage? Conservative estimates start at $1 trillion. But that's just the beginning. Because Taiwan's chip dominance creates something far more dangerous than economic vulnerability. It creates mutual assured destruction. China needs TSMC's chips to power its AI surveillance state, its military modernization, its economic transformation. America needs TSMC's chips to maintain technological superiority, to power its defense systems, to stay ahead in the AI race. Both superpowers are completely dependent on Taiwan, and both superpowers know that controlling Taiwan means controlling the other's technological future. So they're locked in an impossible game. China can't afford to lose Taiwan. America can't afford to let China take Taiwan. And Taiwan sits in the middle, holding the keys to both empires. But here's where the story takes an even darker turn. Because Taiwan's leaders aren't passive players in this geopolitical chess match. They're weaponizing their own indispensability, and that strategy is about to backfire in ways no one anticipated. In Taipei's government buildings, there's a strategy so audacious, so high stakes, it borders on madness. They call it the Silicon Shield. The theory is simple. Make yourself so technologically indispensable that invasion becomes unthinkable. If China attacks Taiwan, they destroy the very semiconductor capabilities they need to compete with America. If America fails to defend Taiwan, they lose access to the chips that power their military supremacy. Mutual dependency as a defense strategy. For years, it worked perfectly. China's leaders, despite their public rhetoric, understood the mathematics. Conquering Taiwan meant inheriting a wasteland of destroyed chip fabs and scattered expertise. American politicians, despite their strategic ambiguity, knew that Taiwan's survival was non-negotiable for technological security. Taiwan was too valuable to lose, too dangerous to take. But here's what Taiwanese strategists didn't account for. Hit that subscribe button, because what happens next will change how you see every headline about China, every tech stock, every smartphone in your pocket. Because the Silicon Shield isn't just cracking, it's becoming the very weapon that could destroy it. The problem with making yourself indispensable is that you also make yourself the ultimate target. And both China and America are starting to realize that dependency is just another word for vulnerability. In Beijing's Zhongnanhai compound, Chinese leadership faces an impossible equation. Wait for Taiwan's chips and remain forever dependent on a territory they consider rebellious. Take Taiwan by force and destroy the semiconductor capabilities they desperately need. So they chose a third option: eliminate the dependency entirely. Since 2020, China has poured over $150 billion into domestic semiconductor development, not just to compete with Taiwan, to replace Taiwan. Every indigenous chip design, every new fabrication facility, every breakthrough in semiconductor manufacturing, it's all aimed at making Taiwan's Silicon Shield irrelevant, and they're making progress faster than Western analysts predicted. Meanwhile, in Washington, American strategists face their own impossible calculation: defend Taiwan and risk nuclear war with China, abandon Taiwan and lose the semiconductor advantage that underpins American technological dominance. So America is pursuing its own third option, bringing chip manufacturing home: the CHIPS Act, $52 billion in subsidies, massive incentives for TSMC to build fabs in Arizona. But here's the part that terrifies Taiwanese leaders. If America can make its own chips and China can make its own chips, what happens to Taiwan's Silicon Shield? Because the strategy that protected Taiwan for decades is about to become obsolete. And once that shield falls, Taiwan becomes just another contested territory. But there's something even more dangerous brewing beneath these shifting technological alliances. Something that could transform a regional conflict into global catastrophe. Because the race to replace Taiwan isn't just about semiconductors. It's about time. Here's the timeline that keeps intelligence analysts up at night. By 2027, China expects to achieve technological parity with Taiwan in chip manufacturing. By 2028, America's domestic chip production should reduce dependence on Taiwanese imports. By 2030, Taiwan's Silicon Shield becomes strategically worthless. And Xi Jinping knows it. Every speech about reunification, every military exercise near Taiwan's coast, every diplomatic pressure campaign, it's not just posturing, it's preparation. Because China's window of opportunity is closing fast. Once America and China both achieve semiconductor independence, Taiwan loses its protective value. And historically, when strategic assets lose their protective value, they become expendable. But Taiwan isn't sitting quietly, waiting for its shield to crumble. In Hsinchu Science Park, Taiwan's Silicon Valley, engineers are working on something that could change the entire equation. Something that could make Taiwan indispensable all over again, or make it an even more irresistible target. Advanced AI chips, quantum processors, brain-computer interfaces. Technology so revolutionary, so strategically crucial, that controlling them means controlling humanity's technological future. Taiwan isn't just trying to maintain its semiconductor lead. It's trying to extend its technological monopoly into the next era of human development. But that strategy comes with a terrifying risk. The more valuable Taiwan becomes, the more dangerous its position gets. Because in the calculus of superpowers, sometimes the most valuable prizes are worth any cost to obtain. War games. Pentagon analysts run them constantly. Taiwan scenario. Alpha. China invades. America defends. Global supply chains collapse. Taiwan scenario. Beta. China blockades. America responds. Economic warfare escalates. Taiwan scenario. Gamma. America abandons Taiwan. China takes control. Technological dominance shifts. But there's a fourth scenario that planners whisper about but never formally document. Taiwan scenario. Delta. The island destroys its own semiconductor capabilities rather than let them fall into enemy hands. Scorched earth. TSMC's facilities are hardened against conventional attacks, but they're not hardened against internal sabotage. A few lines of code, a handful of destroyed masks, some contaminated clean rooms. Taiwan could render its own semiconductor empire worthless in hours. And that possibility that Taiwan might destroy what makes it valuable rather than surrender it changes every strategic calculation. Because suddenly both superpowers face a new nightmare, that the prize they're fighting over might not exist when the fighting ends. But here's the most unsettling part of this technological Cold War. Nobody knows if Taiwan would actually do it, and nobody knows if they're bluffing. Because in the game of nuclear-armed superpowers competing for technological supremacy, sometimes the smallest player holds the most devastating card. We're not just watching a trade dispute between America and China. We're not just observing tensions over a territorial claim. We're witnessing the birth of technological warfare, where control over semiconductor production means control over artificial intelligence, where dominance in chip manufacturing determines military supremacy, where a single island's industrial capabilities can tip the balance of global power. And we're running out of time to figure out how this ends. Because the technologies being developed in Taiwan's chip fabs aren't just powering smartphones and laptops. They're enabling autonomous weapons that can select and eliminate targets without human intervention. AI surveillance systems that can track and predict the behavior of entire populations. Quantum computers that could break every encryption system protecting global communications. The stakes aren't just economic, they're existential. So ask yourself this question. In a world where technological superiority determines survival, where artificial intelligence reshapes the nature of power itself, where a tiny island controls the building blocks of digital civilization, how does this story end? Does Taiwan maintain its silicon shield until both superpowers develop alternatives? Does China move before its window closes? Does America escalate to prevent Chinese control? Or does Taiwan choose to destroy what it can't defend? The next few years will determine not just Taiwan's fate. They'll determine who controls the technological foundation of human civilization. If this investigation opened your eyes to how precarious our technological future really is, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Because in our next documentary, we're diving into the most classified battleground of the AI war, the secret race to build artificial general intelligence, where the winner doesn't just get economic advantage, they get the power to rewrite reality itself. And the losers? They become subjects. If you want to understand how the future of human freedom hangs in the balance of technological supremacy, subscribe now and ring that notification bell. Because the decisions being made in the next 36 months won't just determine who controls artificial intelligence. They'll determine who controls you. And in that battle, knowledge isn't just power, it's survival.